the sun is right now in Gene Key 22, and I had posted in the deep dive group and on my wall to ask who has this gene key in your activation sequence. I wanted to see how the archetype of the 22 that we're calling an invitation to the human experience in the 64 doors. I wanted to see how it comes alive in a chart, and depending on where you have it in the chart, maybe how the expression can differ. So I have chosen a chart to start with, and then I'm going to go into the Facebook group and pull up some charts and to make some examples. So we're going to start with Lucianne, who has a very interesting profile. She's a 5'2", which already is not a common profile. It has a lot of, it has a big projection field because both the second line and the fifth line creates this projection field. So people see you, but they might only see like the reflection of you or what they project back on you. And that is something that can be difficult for a 5'2", to feel like nobody really knows you. I feel like there's a lot of fifth line energy. What I look at, or what my eyes are drawn at when I look at the chart, it's really the fifth line in the vocation, the culture, and the life's work. So these are the masculine planets. We have the Sun, Mars, and Jupiter. So the evolution, how do we evolve, and how do we create service and growth in the world through our initiative. And we have this strong, the emphasis on the fifth line that has to do with solutions, that has to do with practicality, that has to do with universalization, finding solutions that work for many people. And that's also why you can get a projection, because people see you as a leader, but they don't really know you more than what's your role. And I can see how you have this skill for organization. We say that when you have it in the fifth line, it's management, is to be good at organizing things. And I was invited to be one of the people that you were speaking with, Lucy, in the replenishing project. And I remember how well organized it was. So before the interview, I got even an agreement I had to sign. I've done a lot of interviews this year, and that was the only time I had to sign something. I also got an email with a media kit with all the different sizes of the flyer that I could put on Instagram or Facebook, and it was so well organized. And I also see that is really, for a fifth line, that's necessary, because once you get back, you get the information back, it's already organized. So that's something that has to do with working smarter. And that's something that I can see when you have this 40s. Like, I know that you're a manifesting generator in human design, and I can see how that can be starting a lot of different things and pushing. And with a 40 in the vocation and the culture, it's about divine will, and it's about solutions that are smart, that resolve. It's not about pushing and trying everything. It's really about finding those smart solutions and organizing it. And even, it's a tribal gate, so it's even finding others to collaborate with, everybody in the right position, basically. And it's interesting how we have those masculine planets that I said before, and how we create service and growth and initiative in the world through Mars, the Sun, and Jupiter. And at the same time, I would say that there is something with those gene keys, especially the 22 and the 59, that is quite feminine. It has to do with graciousness, with intimacy, this is a sacral gate, so it's about life force. And the 22 is an emotional gate, so that is about really saying yes to the human experience. That's where we are right now in the Sun. And to have the 22 as life's work, and in the fifth line, there's something with that. There's a little bit as a paradox, and almost like maybe this honor has to be quite strong. I was saying in the video of this transit that when you have the 47 22, it's almost like you all have to be on the cross before you start to transmute the suffering. So I would love to know what are the darker moments, what it is that you have had to go through in order to evolve. and to see that we have those very strong fifth lines in your pearl. In the middle, which is your pearl and your essence, we have this fourth line. We have the heart, it's charity, and it's really about intimacy, and it's kind of different from the fifth lines. And I would say there is quite a lot of mysticism as well in the 11 and the 12, in the radiance and the purpose, together with the 22 and the 45. We have the 61 in the SQ. I actually also have that in my SQ. So it's about inspiration and the great mystery as the portal to your inner marriage, as a portal to the very core of who you are. And then your attraction is the first gene key, which is one of the polarities of the universe, the eros, the creative spark. So a lot of mystical gates as well. I can tap into, and yeah, so much more to say. But I feel like I'm going to look at another chart to just get a feeling for what different placements can be. So here, I want to be able to see some when it's kind of, so it's not too small for you. Here we have a 2-5, very interesting. So here we have the opposite. Instead of having the fifth line in the life's work and the evolution, we have it in the radiance and the purpose. So here it's somebody who kind of looks more like a dancer and somebody who flows in everyday life, but has this really powerful leadership voice that is there on a soul level. And I can see how part of the challenge here could be to actually allow that voice to come through. And they're also switched. So the 22 is the evolution. Here is a kind of magical number with the 222, and I can see how this would be your biggest challenge. And even for you, that probably a lot of your challenges happen in relationship and can have to do with disappointment or dishonor, and that it's really for the 2-5 to fulfill yourself first. And that is when things are going to open up for you. That's when you're going to heal parts of from your cell memories, maybe from your childhood or from your ancestry. That's when you're going to be able to see life with more optimism. And that's when you're going to break through into this leadership voice that has to do with communion and synergy with others. And that's when your true impact can reach the world, and your core stability and your artfulness can come through. I also see for you, when we look at the pearl sequence, that you have the 14 twice. So this is really about you sharing your competence with the world. And so important, again, that compromise is not what you're here to do. It's really fulfilling yourself first and being in your own passion, naturalness. And that's how you can bring about really the life force that you're here to share with the world, that you're here to build with. Again, growth and service and initiative are the pathways in the pearl. So those are all important. And somehow the second line could also be that dishonor, could also be something that the low frequency of the suffering of this human experience is something that you're more going to experience through others and not through yourself, because it is always that mirroring. So maybe you can have even a feeling of like that your life is quite more easy, but you have to see that through other people. And that can be sometimes even harder because we can feel helpless. The fifth line doesn't like to feel helpless. And like we said, you also have, like Lucy, you have 2 fifth line here, and you really don't like to be helpless. That kind of makes you see even more how much discord there is in the world, and how things are not really going in the right direction sometimes. So let's see, how do I get out? Yeah, I want to see this. Let's see if this is big enough. And here, oh, is this the same? Oh, this is so interesting. So similar, but here we have a 2-4. So instead of having that leadership voice in the radiance and purpose, here we have somebody who's here to build community, to build friendship, to really here to like breathe the community feeling. And At the same time, let's see, what do we have? We also have a lot of leadership, however. So there is, the leadership voice doesn't come from from the line of the radiance and the purpose, but we can see that it's here in the culture. The 31 is the leadership. So I would say that there is something with leadership that is intuitive, and that really comes from your natural expression, and from you, again, either going through suffering in your own life that comes from relationship, or you seeing somebody else in close relationship suffer, and that is part of like how you come back to learn what is, what is humility, what is leadership, what is it to accept life as it is, and tuning into to more of your finding your community in your breakthrough. And that's where your core stability sits. And then there is an intuitive fire, like when you listen to your intuition, that's when you can start to serve the world. That's when you can start to tap into your true leadership. And there is an interesting essence as well of forgiveness, and this has to do with the 7 sacred seals. Very interesting, because the 5th line, collective wound, is about guilt and forgiveness, and the 4th gene key is about guilt and forgiveness. So here you really have one of the 7 sacred seals. I can even probably show it to you here. So here you see the seal, the 5th seal is the 4th gene key about forgiveness. So that can be something to look into for you, or even using the archangel to tap into your pearl, to feel your essence more, because that's really, the pearl is really it's really your essence. It's kind of taking your life and reduce it into one word and one line. So let's see. And what more do we have? Karen, let's see where you have it. Oh yeah, so here it's in the purpose. So now suddenly, this is very interesting, right? The grounding, we say the purpose is the grounding, it's the roots. And when you have something in the grounding that is so, how can we say, that is so unstable somehow, it's not the word that I'm looking for, versatile maybe, unstable, versatile, as the 22 and the 3. The 22 already is all about the human experience you say yes to, right? All the colors of what it is to be human, and especially the emotional parts that are also difficult. And then the 3rd line, that is all about movement and the fire of the solar plexus. So to be grounded in that is so interesting. So you're a 6-3, so having this personality that is much as a role model, and that it has patience, maybe that is learning patience, and that is learning to be a role model. But all your gates are quite what's the word I'm looking for? They are, the 5th line is all about impatience, basically. The 35 is all about hunger. The 57 is all about oppression. And the 22 is all about the human experience and the emotions and the pressure of expression. And you also have it here in your EQ. So yeah, very, very interesting. How is it to be a 6-3, to have to be here, to be a role model, but to have all these gates that basically are creating drama in your life, especially in the low frequency, and your IQ is about struggle. This is a quite intensive chart, I would say. And there's also something that when you surrender to life, speaking about that 40th gene key that we saw in Lucy's chart, when you surrender to life, when you say yes to the invitation in the 22, when you go into that portal, then on the other side of that, you have grace. And maybe that is your whole life goes into, that is what your whole life is asking you to do. That's why it's creating, that's why it's giving you all these activations that are powerful, to say, if you can just surrender to it, if you can accept this, if you can say yes to the experience, then your purpose is coming through, your purity is coming through, harmony is coming through, your competence is coming through, and you just have to simplify. The first line is simplification. You just have to simplify, because once you surrender to the experience of life and accept it, then your artfulness is going to be what you shine, you know. Very, very beautiful. And what more? I think this might be too small. I can't really see. The 22 on the bottom again. So grounded in your fluidity. So this is a little bit different. The third line was movement. Here we have a fluidity. So you're not grounded like with, you know, on earth with both feet. It's like there is a fluidity, a flow in your life all the time. It is so important. And that is going to help you to find your adventure and find your timing, I would say. It's important for you. And then what more? And this is a 6-2, so there's also this role model, and much more. Instead of having that fire in the third line, you have the second line. So here we have less intensity, but you also have the 22 in your culture. So there is something also with what you do with other people, what you do in the world, what you do on an everyday basis, that has to do with a creativity that might come from something artistic, that has to do with this 22, with expression, with the poetry, with the art of the 22. And that is something that is between you and creativity, basically between you and that process. That is something that is just really unique. Yeah. Let's see if I can get out of this. And one more. No more charts. I think I had, maybe I can see Marie as well. So here again, we have it in the evolution. It's a 2-4 again. A lot of the things, again, through the relationship, either that you get kind of burnt through relationship, or that you can see somebody else that is hurting, and your true grounding, core stability, and wholeness, you could say, also comes through the right relationships. And you both have a first line vocation and a first line attraction. There is something as well with this part of you that is very deep and that you don't even know how to share with others, and that can probably be something that you experience in relationship, and that is part of your breakthrough, when you can take that thing that is so deep in you and share it with others. And part of that, I think that's what humanity, that's the duality, that's the difficulty that we have. And I feel like once you're able to do that, we can see that your pearl is the 64-6. So it's the last line of the I Ching. So there's something with that that tells me that you are here for that process. And as well, here you have the same, the EQ also has to do with that, the fifth sacred seal. So that could be something for you in your, reclaiming your emotional intelligence using that seal, I would say. And also seeing you have the 45 twice, that tribal leadership. Okay, so I think that was basically everything. I can also look at my own wall to see what we have. Can we see this, or is it too small? This one without anything. Yeah, here we don't have the lines, so I'll wait for another time with that. A 5-1, so a little bit like Lucy. And we have the 22 in the vocation. And here we have the core wound of separation. So this is, I could say, this is probably one of the toughest, especially in the vocation, the core wound of separation, feeling like you came to the wrong planet. And then the 22 is all about saying yes to the human experience. You can see how this could be tough. And then the SQ is about unity. So how do you actually go from feeling that core wound of separation, from kind of even feeling, why did I come here, into unity, into the deepest line of unity, to become really present in this world, and to be part of like the magnetism and fluorescence of what it is to be human and brilliant as a human. That's a very powerful Venus sequence. And you also have that second gene key as your pearl. So, and it's about celebration of life. So from feeling completely separated from this, isolated or separated in this human experience, to becoming the essence of celebrating the essence of of unity, and orienting yourself, trusting life so much so that you can orient yourself in each and every moment, basically. Very, very powerful. And you also have the celebration in your culture. So it goes from expectation to detachment to celebration. So a lot of celebration. And here you can see again, starting out with constriction, seriousness, obscurity, and then this really powerful core wound into something that is about adventure, unity, flow, trust, purity. Very powerful profile as well. And Stephanie, I've looked at your chart. No, it's attraction. So part of your sensuality basically is that 22. So you have a feminine essence, and that for me is the artistry that you're doing. It's really, you attract people to you. And I think I even had you on a call when you were saying that, you would just set up your things somewhere and people will come to you. And that is the 22 in the attraction, the human experience through art that are making other people come to you, and also the fluorescence we just saw in here, and the enrichment that can be a distraction or not being present. And then we have this sleeping phoenix, so you kind of being busy in the low frequency, and here another, okay, yeah. So here's the core wound of denial. So this can even be harder in one way, because you have that 22, but you don't really want to see it. And you might feel like it's somebody else. And to kind of, yeah, it's a tough one. And it's also that magical number again. And the 45 seems to be with it all the time. This has to do with love. This cross, it's all about love. Yeah. Well, probably with a first line. So here's a 1-3. You're here to be bold, to be empowered, to live life in your own creative way. And that's also part of your essence and your innermost. And at the same time, there is something with your vocation, with your core wound, that happens in the mirroring with the other. So that's, again, is probably something that can be a little bit of a paradox for you. And then life is going to make you bump into things that you're going to be, to have to take care about, take care of. And there are quite a lot of third lines as well on the unconscious side, in the Venus sequence. There are going to be kind of, burn you, and that's what you're going to learn from, and that's probably where your empowerment comes from. And then it's like in society or in everyday life, you're here to be a spontaneous voice of insight, and maybe you're going to express things that other people haven't expressed. So that might come once that denial really becomes turn around, and you really can mirror the other, you really can see yourself through the mirror of the other. Then your true voice is going to come through, and you're going to express things that haven't been said before. And you don't probably like to have boss, you probably don't like to have to be responsible for other people. You want the kind of the overview, you want the system level in this culture, in the culture, which is also the EQ, about the farsightedness. Okay, so I think we did it. I think there are too many. I might do these ones another day. So yeah, these are some examples, and like you see, I'm just threading as I go, but this is how you can start playing with the charts, and to see that the 22 really depends where it is in the chart and what is there more, what are the lines. There's so many different things to look at, and it's always possible to go deeper in our own charts and discover more things. It never ends, basically. Thank you.